I literally can barely move because of how many books there's around me right now. It's a bit ridiculous. Hi, welcome back. June is over, sadly. We can take all the rainbows back down again. I've started over filming this 3 times because I'm so distracted. Anyways, let's just talk about books because I have nothing on my brain right now. I read 9 books this month, which is quite a lot. I think that's like my previous record. If you count the short story that I read by Sally Rooney, it would be 10 books, only I'm not going to count it because as a rule in June, I only read books by queer people or about queer people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Sally Rooney is one of those. Anyways, the first book that I finished was Art Objects by Jeanette Winston, or Art Objects, actually. This book is incredible. It did not just blow my mind, I think it actually changed my life. I will never look at art the same way. I will never read literature the same way after reading these essays. Her mind is incredible. I also talked a little bit about this in my previous wrap-up because I was in the middle of reading it at the time that I filmed that, so I had a lot more to say about it because I was still very much there with my mind, and now a month has passed and my brain is literally liquid right now. But anyways, I'm just gonna read to you what I wrote down because I don't have the capacity to think right now. She writes about how art kind of opens up a different dimension in your mind. To be in touch with art is to be in touch with truth and self in a way that nothing else can ever compare to. So this book made me want to run to a museum. I'm just gonna read you some of it. This is a part that I really loved. This is on page 11 and she was already rocking my world. Our present obsession with the past has the double advantage of making new work seem raw and rough compared to the cozy pattern of tradition, whilst refusing tradition its vital connection to what is happening now. By making islands of separation of the unbreakable chain of human creativity, we are able to set up false comparisons, false expectations, all the while lamenting that the music, poetry, painting, prose, performance art of now fails to live up to the art of then, which is why we say it doesn't affect us. In fact, we are no more moved by a past we are busy inventing than a present we are busy denying. If you love a Suzanne, you can love a Hockney. If you love a Boyd, you can love a Rao. If you love a Suzanne, rather than lip service it. So like the art of now is the art of the past of the future, and the way that we look at art of the past now is how the people of the future will look at all art now. Do you get what I'm saying? I also wanted to read this quote because it literally describes how I feel about this book. Art is a way into other realities, other personalities. When I let myself be affected by a book, I let into myself new customs and new desires. The book doesn't reproduce me, it redefines me, pushes at my boundaries, shatters the palings that guard my heart. Strong texts work along the borders of our minds and alter what already exists. They couldn't do this if they merely reflected what already exists. Her mind is just so big. I really, really couldn't recommend this book more. If you love art, if you love literature, which you probably do if you're here. She writes about Virginia Woolf, she writes about Letters to a Young Poet. The last essay is all about her own work, which as a fan was really great. It's chef's kiss. I have nowhere to leave this. Oh wait, this one can go here because this is my Jeanette Winston stack. The next book I read was Page Boy by Elliot Page. I wanted to match with him, but I don't have the arms to fill out the top, so that's not really happening yet. Anyway, yeah, I had really been looking forward to this book, obviously. Me and Elliot, we go way back. He doesn't know this, but he came out as a lesbian, I think a few months after I did. I was already obsessed with him at that point. I was already watching most of his movies. I've even seen Hard Candy, even though it was like the most disturbing thing I had ever seen at that point in my life. Also, ever since he's been relevant, people have told me that I look like him. I mean, sometimes I see it. We both have like the eyebrows and the sharp nose, I guess. So we had that going for us. Then we were both lesbians, and then he came out as trans, and then I came out as trans. So like we are on a very similar timeline, and I feel like we are connected in some way. So, needless to say, I was very excited about this book. However, I will say, I don't know if I was disappointed because, like, I have been anticipating this book for a long time, but I didn't really have any expectations, really. I mean, it's a celebrity memoir, so you never really know what to expect from the writing. And writing-wise, I thought it was really good. I think he's a solid writer. However, I feel like somebody should have told him to make an outline for this, to put this in, like, a structure that makes sense, or to just tell it chronologically, like any memoirist would have done. He didn't. Instead, every chapter starts in some random place, goes to some random place, doesn't quite go back to the place where it started, and then the next chapter just starts somewhere completely different again. And it's kind of hard to follow in that way. He does have a lot of interesting things to say. There's a lot of anecdotes in here that are very interesting and kind of juicy. But yeah, I feel like the way that it was structured kind of makes it hard to recommend this book as a book of its own. Like if you don't care about Elliot Page, this book is going to be kind of a chore to read, I think. But if you like him, you'll probably like this book. I mean, it's about him. He wrote it. He seems very nice, so that's good. I just find it a shame that it wasn't edited better, I guess. Then, exciting news. I joined the library. finally. It took me a hot minute, but I finally did it, and I never want to go back. I was elated going there the first time. But anyway, the real reason I did it was because I heard that with a library membership, you could get into the Dutch catalog of ebooks and audiobooks, and I had some audiobooks that I really wanted to listen to on audiobooks specifically. The thing is, apparently it only has Dutch things, so that was kind of a letdown. But anyway, I wanted to go on a walk one day, and I wanted to listen to something, so I just looked up some Dutch writers that I am interested in reading. The thing about Dutch books is that they are extremely expensive, so like it's nice to have a different source for that. And I found a book by, I hate switching languages in the middle of a sentence. Anyway, I found a book by Maatje Wortel called De Groef, which is a book about a walk in a park. And I was going to take a walk in the park while reading it. It was fantastic. It was great. It was only an hour long. It is about a walk in the park, but it's also about a friendship between the person that she used to take walks in the park with all the time, and now she's moved away, and she's very sad about that. It's set during the time of COVID. There was so much that I wanted to underline, but I couldn't because it was an audiobook. Her writing style was really nice. I definitely want to read more by her. If you're Dutch, I recommend that one. It's very short. Then I finally finished this, Tour de Trans, which I started the day after my top surgery. It's only a bit over 2 months ago, so it's not that bad. This is a massive book, which is kind of a travel log of a trans guy who bikes from the north of the Netherlands to Istanbul with his dog. It was fine. It was interesting, let's just say that, but you can tell that the guy is not much of a writer. I feel like a lot of this could have been cut out. A lot of things could have been clarified a bit better. Like I said, it was more of a travel log than like a good book. Then I went to the library and went into like the physical books department, and I read Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto because it was about a trans woman, I heard, and so I was interested in that. I had different expectations for that book, but I can't really explain what my expectations were because I feel like I didn't know anything about it going in. Still, what did happen wasn't quite what I wanted from it, but you know, that's on me. It was a very short book. It was only like 100 pages or something. The time that this girl had with the trans mother, it felt like it was too short. I feel like it was kind of written in a way where it was kind of detached from anything too emotional, even though it was very emotional because it's very much about grief. I don't know, I didn't really connect with that one. However, there was a story in the back of it in the copy that I had. I think it was called Moonlight Shadows. I did really like that one because it had a magical realism twist, and I am a sucker for that shit. I might have liked that story better than I liked the rest of the book. But anyway, I'm still glad I read it. It was nice. Then I read Pizza Girl by Jean Kyung Fraser. It's a book about a pizza girl who's a teenager and she's pregnant and she gets a crush on one of her customers. Like a woman orders a weird pizza and she becomes obsessed with her. I also had different expectations for that one. It was a little bit unhinged, but like there's like a trend going in books of girls that don't care about anything and have no opinions. And it can be done well, but at the same time, I'm just getting kind of bored of it because looking at that objectively, it's just not that interesting to read about someone who doesn't care about anything. Like, it's lacking passion. I would like some unhingedness with passion, you know? Passionate unhingedness. At the same time, that book was also a bit about grief. There were definitely some deeper emotions hidden under the surface. But yeah, I don't know. It was just fine. That's all. So yeah, moving on. Then I wanted to read something where somebody actually cared about something. So I read Blues for Mr. Charlie by James Baldwin, play about a black boy who was killed by a white man in a segregated town in 1959, I believe. Yeah, this one definitely had a bit more feeling in it, if you know what I mean. I did feel like it had a lot of characters for a play. I was trying to work out how you would find a cast big enough to put this on, but at the same time it did, like, I could very clearly see how the stage would work with the black side on one town and the white side on one town and this aisle in the middle where like the action kind of happened. So yeah, this was good. Then I went to the library to look for a short book on lesbians. I actually already had a book about lesbians, but I didn't want to read it yet. I'll get back to that. I went to the library looking for a short book about lesbians and I found Boulder by Ava Balsar, and I have been looking forward to this one for a while. I've seen people talking about this. I think Willow over on Books on Bow really hyped this book up and made me really want to read it, and I'm so glad that I did. But this was the first time I was sad that this is a library book. I don't want to return this. This was so good. This was like exactly what I wanted to read in the moment that I was reading it. It's very short. It's like 100 pages and it's written in like short segments. It's very fast paced. It kind of reminded me in pacing and in the way that it was written of The End We Start From by, what was her name? Megan Hunter. That was her name. That's what it reminded me of in like vibe and prose, but this one was so much darker than that. Wait, they're both about motherhood. Wow. Okay, cool. Anyway, this is about a woman who works as a cook on a freighter ship because she enjoys not being bound to anything. She likes being free. Then she meets a woman, she falls in love with her, they move to Iceland together, and then her girlfriend decides that they want to have a baby together, and she doesn't correct her. So they have a baby, and the contrast between them as mothers regarding their feelings towards the child are very interesting. I don't want to spoil it too much. I just think you should read this without knowing too much about it, but I think this had so many interesting things to say about relationships fizzling out as passionate as they start out, having children. I think her feelings were kind of universal. They weren't like a lesbian experience, they were like a second parent experience, maybe. I found this so interesting. I'm still thinking about it so much. I really, really love this one. This was definitely my favorite of the month, probably one of my favorites of the year. I can't stop thinking about this book. It's so good and it's so well written and beautifully translated too, because this author is a poet and you can tell. I find it such a feat of the translator, whose name is Julia Sanchez, to keep the prose as beautiful as it was in the original. I haven't read the original, so I don't know, but such a good book. So beautifully written. Everything was so visceral and just I really love this book. Couldn't recommend it more. If you like sad lesbians, you will love this. Then I made the mistake of reading the lesbian romance that I picked up from my first trip to the library. There was a reason that I didn't pick it up before Boulder, because I don't like romances. I should probably just tell you what book it is. Let's not beat around the bush any longer. Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. The thing is, I read a book by Nina LaCour a long time ago. I think it was called Everything Leads to You, because I was a teenage lesbian and I wanted to read books about lesbians, and I did not like that book at all, even though back then I was just reading anything with lesbians and generally enjoying it, but that one I really didn't like. I don't remember what I didn't like about it. I can't say too much about that. I was hoping that, you know, after like 10 years, her style would have improved or whatever. Now, I can't say that it hasn't, because I honestly wouldn't know, but I hated this. First of all, it's a romance, so I was kind of expecting just like light-hearted stuff, right? The thing is, it handles some really, really heavy topics. Like right off the beat, it starts off with the most horrible concepts known to man, but it's written in such a dull and simple and feelingless way that it just did not click for me, which is why I ended up DNFing. As soon as the characters met, I was like, I actually, you know what, I do not even care if they end up together, or I guess they will end up together, but I don't care what happens. I just don't. I decided to start practicing DNFing things if I don't enjoy them. I feel like reading that after Boulder was such a mistake, because they're such vastly different books. Maybe I shouldn't have started in the first place, because I know I don't like romance, and I know now that I will never read romance again, so that's that. The last book I read was also an audiobook. However, this was not an hour-long audiobook. This was an 8-hour-long audiobook. It's called Warm Man by Marieke Heitman, who also wrote The Water app, which is over here on my favorite shelf. It has 2 narratives it's all about biology and evolution, gender and history and peas. I mean literal peas, because the main character was a biologist or agriculture person. I'm not really sure. Anyway, this was a lot to listen to because I get distracted very quickly when I'm listening to something. I'm not that good at audiobooks, is like what I'm saying. So I feel like I can't really judge this book properly because I'm sure so much of it went over my head. But the things that I did get, I liked. There were a lot of very interesting passages in it about biology and evolution. The bits about gender at some points were a bit much for me. It just very much felt like somebody questioning their gender for the very first time and writing everything down about that, which I can relate to because I once wrote something like that. It's the first draft of something I'm writing right now, and I've scratched all of that out because it was just too much. Like, that could have been an essay, but the things that they were saying were quite good. Like, there was a lot about the woman I never became, which I found an interesting concept. I always kind of had the boy I never became in my head, so it's kind of like an opposite experience, which is interesting. But anyways, I think this book was really good, but I can't really tell you for sure because I didn't hear half of it. So my current reads, I actually read half of this book. It's The Idiot by Elif Batuman. I'm buddy reading this with Sally, but Sally is taking a while to catch up, so I'm taking a break in the middle, and that's fine because this book is also about a girl who doesn't care about anything and doesn't have any opinions. I will say it's written well, and I am loving it, but at the same time, it was kind of numbing my brain and making me feel like I didn't care about anything and I had no opinions. A break from that was welcome. And then after I DNF Yerba Buena, I started reading Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jodorowsky. Yeah, sure. It's about 2 Polish gay men falling in love. I will say so far, it's been very, I don't want to say sexual because it's not really, but like he's objectifying his boyfriend so much. Is it objectifying or is he just like admiring his beauty? But like, if he was writing that about a woman, I would have DNF'd because it gets ridiculous at some points, but it is written well. It's also about politics and communism. It is very interesting in that way. But what I like most about it so far is that nature is a big theme. And well, they go to a lake and they swim in the dark. I'm loving that. I'm really craving being in nature right now. I'm in my folklore era. I'm also about halfway through this one. I'll tell you more about it in the next wrap up. That was everything I read this month. It was an okay reading month. Boulder was by far my favorite. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that one. Wait, I'm lying. Art Objects was my favorite. Where is it? Oh, I put it back on the instant stack. Literary Lesbians. Am I right? There's something about them. Strongly recommend both of these. The rest of them, see for yourself. So that was my month. Tell me how yours was. What was your favorite book that you read this month? Did you also read a lot of gay books? If you didn't read enough gay books in June, you should just read So Much Blues in July to make up for that. I would appreciate that. Other than that, I hope you have a nice day. I hope you have a nice month. I hope that I upload some more this month because I do kind of have the time right now and I do have some ideas. I'm not putting any pressure on myself, so we'll see. Have a nice day. Goodbye.